Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're saying good morning, but you could be watching this in the replay. It's totally not morning. We always say
Good
that.
evening.
Hello, I'm Lynn Pelzer. These are my co-hosts, Tracy Evans and Heather Meeks. We are missing one today. Sorry we're missing you today, Tammy Hudgen.
Missing you.
So today's topic we have for you, this is the Circle Life and Business Show, and we are talking about your circle of five. So we've got some great stuff to share about that today. And I'm going to really hand it over to Tracy Evans because she has some great experience to share with us, and I think some stories too. Tracy, take it away.
So I love this topic. It really was coined by Jim Rohn, who said, we are an average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And it's a really interesting concept when you think about how people influence us and how we become the people that we spend the most time with. And it really became quite interesting for me because my world has changed so dramatically over the last 7-8 years that my circle of 5 has shifted with it. And it's become really, I've been become really aware of where I want to be influenced from and the types of people I want to surround myself with, whether it's in person or people I follow and influencers that I choose to embrace their what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It's never going to come to me. Here we go. It's Monday. Embrace their philosophies and their values.
Yeah.
So what really came true for me and where I sort of evolved from is, if you can imagine, 8 years ago I was in the corporate world. So my circle of 5 were the people I spent the most time with were in the office. They were pursuing their careers. They were doing things like I was doing. So we had the same values. We had similar goals and objectives. And that was my circle of 5. And it was a really comfortable circle of 5. Of course, I have friends outside of work and what have you. But when you think of the amount of time you spend in an office in the corporate world, it's 8 hours a day. That's your circle of 5.
Yeah.
The second piece was then I left that corporate world and I started to work on my farm and I started to build my business around my passion. So the people that I was surrounded with were passionate horse people because that's who I would attract because I was working with my horses. And it's amazing. And my best friends are horse friends because we do share that passion and we do share that enthusiasm. But as I was building my business, that's where I really started to see that my circle of 5 kind of needed to shift a little bit. Because as much as I love my horse friends, and those are people who are never going to leave my circle, I needed to start bringing in influencers and people who were building their businesses, people who could bring me, enlighten me on how to build my own business, but also inspire me on how to build my own business and kind of bring that growth mindset in, and I could relate to from an entrepreneurial perspective. Because I tell you, when I first got into working my own business, I felt pretty alone, because I didn't have a group of entrepreneurial friends who could relate. And when you meet entrepreneurs, everybody's business is booming and everything's great, and then you're having the lousy month and you're like, I'm the only one who's not doing well.
Only one.
I know that comparison game kicks in pretty quick. But when you start to build actual relationships in that circle, you start to realize, we all have our ups and downs, and that's just life as an entrepreneur. So for me, what my advice and my thoughts around the circle of 5 are, you have to be open to allow them to ebb and flow, and make sure that you're really aware of what you want and who you want to be, to be able to attract and to surround yourself with the people that could kind of help foster that ideal self, I guess.
I love that. And I love that Tracy's giving us homework.
I will be giving you homework.
Everyone. Yes. It's a really good thing to work through. Heather, what about you when you think about the circle of 5? Or do you have a story to share, or how things have changed over the years, or what is it for you?
Well, I mean, of course, exactly what Tracy said about evolving. Our circles absolutely evolve. And I think that, we have different circles, whether it be, our friends or our business colleagues. Even, I have a circle of women who are moms, and we kind of do everything at the school. And I think what's really important also that you mentioned about influencers is it doesn't always have to be people that you do see, like we had mentioned this earlier, that you're actually hanging out with and spending time with. It could very well be somebody who you respect in your respective industry, that you look up to, that you just want to follow on social media. Somebody that, shares your values, but doesn't necessarily mean that you're, out for lunch with them or always spending time with them. It's kind of who you have honed into and connected in with. type of thing. I actually, last week I was telling Lynn and Tracy earlier that I had shared my story last week, and part of that story was the influence that my circle of 5 when I was younger had on me, and me just, you know, staying stuck and kind of being the follower rather than the leader, in a circle that, although they seem to have my best interest at heart, it was always almost an expected behavior for me to go to university. I didn't want to go to university, but I went to university because my circle was all going to university. Yeah. And it's so hard to kind of break out of that pattern and recognize that certain people, whether you've been friends for life or not, may not have your best interest and aren't going to be part of that significant growth in your life, or you pushing on to become better, and become, you know, evolve and become a different person, you know. So it's hard.
It can be hard because it needs to be, well, I think it can be intentional, the choices around
absolutely
your circle, but some of it is not the intention that you think. So when we thought about this subject or this topic, I started thinking how when I was younger, my first job that I accepted, okay, so I applied to a bunch of jobs. I took one that likely my circle in that job fit where I was at.
Right.
And I wouldn't probably want that same circle now, because then as I started doing personal development and things like that, which they weren't doing, just, I don't even know how I came into that, to be honest, because I was in dentistry. I don't know how that happened, but we did. And I must have had some influence somewhere. We didn't have social media to sort of like see all these positive quotes and a name, maybe Jim Rohn or whatever, to start following. But then when I moved on to the next thing, I think I had already grown to the point that naturally the circle happened. So it wasn't intentional, but me growing myself created a better circle, or maybe not better, but where I probably wanted to be or where I wanted to go. And then that evolved again and again. And then I think also it's that thing about, you don't want to have the most expensive house on the street. Yes. You guys ever heard that? Where you don't want to own the most expensive house on the street. You're at the top of the list. Everybody's, you know, the value of their house is going up because of your house. Well, it's the same in the circle. And so sometimes you're the most expensive house on the street, and I don't know, like, that's an okay
inspiration.
Yeah, where do you go for your inspiration? Yeah. And that's an okay place to be for a while, because you learn from that, but then you do have to kind of up level again. And it doesn't mean you don't have those friends or those people anymore.
No.
I don't want people to get that wrong. We're saying, like, you know, ditch those guys, go find yourself a new group. It's not really that either.
Yeah. And I think to Heather's point, your circle can ebb and flow as you go. Like, you know, there are weeks where I'm like, I just need my closest friends. Yes. And I need that kind of inspiration and that kind of uplifting. And then there are times where I'm like, I have got to get to a networking event I've never been to before with people who are doing things 10 times the size I am, because that's where I want to go. And I need to find these people.
Like Fem City.
Like Fem City. And that's kind of how you have to think about it, is where are you? What do you want to grow in? What do you also want to stretch your leadership skills, right? So I want to be part of circles where I'm you know, I don't say at the top, but that I can also provide inspiration to others and help them grow and that type of thing. But it is really important to make sure you're really focused on where you are drawing your inspiration from and where you're getting that influence from, and not getting sucked in when we have, you know, maybe people in our lives that don't share our values, or we've outgrown. You know, like you say, they don't disappear, but maybe they're not the people you're drawing from as your top 5.
Yeah, right? That's always so hard. It's such a hard thing. We should say good morning just to some of these ladies.
I see Sue Carr. Good morning, Alyssa. Stacy Lee Cook. Hi, Stacy. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Kennedy. Good morning.
Carrie and Naomi Smythe says, hi, darlings. By the way, we are going to have Carrie and Naomi Smythe as a special guest doing some really cool stuff here in about a month, actually. Thank you, Carrie Ann. Carmela. I see Beth again, and I can't see the ones higher.
I think that's it. I think that's we were at the top.
Okay, good. Good morning, everyone.
Great to have you all here.
Okay, so does anybody have another story to share about that? And it may not be your story even, like something you can think of that has happened to other people. It might be from the corporate. I have a feeling you have some corporate stories.
Yeah, not so much from the corporate side, but just going back to that, do they have to sit in the same room with you all the time?
Right.
One of the, I will tell you a corporate story, because I can tell you, even in my corporate life, I didn't network. And I didn't really go out and embrace my industry and indulge in my industry, because it was a job. It wasn't a career for me. It was a job. I wasn't sticking around. And I wanted to get out of there and get home and ride. That was my life. So for me, I didn't embrace that, and I wasn't really bringing an outside influence into my circle. I wasn't in social media.
I think it's always so strange when we're talking about a time when there was not social media.
I was excited that we got email. It was really good. Anyway, I did have a cell phone. But we didn't have social media. We didn't have we had self-help books. And that's about it, because there wasn't a proliferation of workshops and things you could go to. So even from an external side of things, the other people that may not be sitting at lunch with you, access to those wasn't as great back then either, or at least I wasn't looking for it, so it didn't present itself in the same way. So it's also figuring out where you need to position yourself to find those opportunities and find that top 5, because if you're just sitting at home and you're not getting out to networking events, you're not investigating different philosophies, you're not seeing the latest books coming out there, you're not listening to those key influencers, you won't necessarily grow in that way. And that was a big piece, I think, in my corporate life, in that I was like, I had this job, I had this career, I knew what my path was, so my growth slowed a little. I did courses, but I didn't do a lot of personal development until later in my career, when I realized I wasn't in the right place and I needed to figure it out.
I think that's like the one of the greatest things about social media now, that we are able to tap into these, different networks of people who do have a lot of influence that we can follow. So, social media has definitely upped the game a little bit with finding, new circles.
Yeah. And just for access, just opening your mind to what it could be. When you were saying about that corporate stuff, and I was thinking networking, and then how you might be looking for a new circle. And if you find that as you're looking for new people in your life, we have a circle. We have a great circle. And we have our extended circle. Remember, you watching that? It's so cool how it seems to be the right people show up. And that's what I was going to say, is that, I can remember a time in my life where I was going places and not necessarily looking to have more people in my life, but the new people that were coming into my life were a little more negative, or it was the same sort of group. And over time I realized that's what I was attracting, because I needed to do some work. So, whether it be, I don't know, one thing I did that was life-changing, and I was 20 something, I feel like 22, 23. I started
really young. Like,
I was like, this was like a few years ago. I did this gratitude journal.
Yes.
Oprah Winfrey talked about it. The
abundance.
The simple abundance. Simple abundance. It was a book, and this gratitude. It's funny. I don't know if I was watching Oprah, and that's where I came from it. But I was in a bit of a negative time in my life. It's a whole other story. And I was having a hard time feeling really positive. There was something quite serious happening in my life that I couldn't really control. And so I started doing this simple abundance and doing this gratitude journal every night, and it changed my perception of things, and it started to change the opportunities and the people. One thing. Yeah. So now we have so many opportunities to do that stuff. So I guess my message here is, if people are looking to up level, they're like, well, how do we even do it? I know you're going to get into that too. I kind of have to look at yourself. Yeah. And see, if I keep sitting at the networking meeting and it's the person who's XYZ and that's not what I'm looking for, why is that happening?
Yeah. But just what you said, and this is getting off topic a little bit, but the gratitude, it is everything. If anybody wants to know how to implement an abundant mindset, it's gratitude. Just every day. even if it's one thing that you're grateful for, you'll really start to see things shift out of that scarcity mindset by just doing that. So anyways, that's a little off topic, but
sounds like another show.
I think we should, that is
scarcity mindset's a show of
the
itself.
scarcity
absolutely.
mindset. Yes, absolutely. I hear Tika. Everybody know my dog Tika. We can hear her going
She's so
crazy,
cute.
playing with something in the other room.
One time we have to bring her on.
Well, yes, she likes to sneak away on. So I'm not sure if we have any
time.
questions. We have a few more minutes, and I know Tracy has some things to go through. So maybe if you can go through that, and then we'll check if there's any questions. If you have them, type them in, or any comments. We'd also love to hear your stories on this too.
So we wanted to leave you with an exercise, because you're probably all sitting there figuring out who's my circle of 5, who should my circle of 5 be. So I'm going to give you 4 steps to kind of go through an evaluation process on your circle of 5.
Oh, I love this.
The very first thing you have to do has really nothing to do with your circle of 5. It's all about you. Because if you don't know what your ideal self is and who you want to be, then you won't know who to surround yourself with and how to even look for those people. So you have to get really real about what your values are. Think about who you are today. Think about some of the values and some of the behaviors and some of the philosophies and thought processes that you want to become more of you, and who you want to become as your ideal self. Think of the things you want to get rid of and your mindset, because we all have a good pile of those that we need to shape. And just really understand, who do you want to be? Because that's going to help you move to step 3, but we're going to go to step 2 first. So step 2 is, who are your top 5 today? So who are the 5 people that you feel influence you the most? They may be the people that you surround yourself with. They may be the people who surround themselves with you. They may be your family. They may be your friends. They may be your colleagues. Really look at who those 5 people are that influence you the most and have the most impact on your life, and then start to evaluate them. So do they share your values? Do they share the values of your ideal self? Are they the people you want to become? Do they embody the mindset, the behaviors, maybe their position in life? Is that where you want to be? And is that who you want to become? Do they match you? Do they match your ideal self?
It's
and
like
that's
taking an inventory.
Take an inventory, for sure. And you're going to have people in your life that match beautifully. You're going to have people in your life that you can aspire to. And you're going to have people in your life who are like, you know what, they're not really where I want to be, but they're really good people and they're really close. And whatever, everybody has, different ways that we build our relationships and what we need from relationships. But this top 5 becomes really important when you recognize the influence they have on you. So it's figuring out, who are your top 5 today, and are they the ones that should have the most influence on you, given who you want to become. And then number 3, who are the top 5 people that would embody who you want to be and who your ideal self is? And this is where it gets tricky, because it's not necessarily the people in the room. It's not necessarily the people in your circle, your family, your immediate space. It could be anybody. It could be Mother Teresa. It could be Oprah. It could be whoever. So it's really important to kind of think really broadly about who has the message, the mindset, the values, the philosophy that are going to help you become your ideal self. And like I said, it could be anyone. So open your mind to that, because, maybe we may not have lunch with Oprah tomorrow. Maybe soon, when she sees the show.
Hashtag Oprah.
Hashtag Oprah. But those people are out there. Their content is out there. So there's lots of opportunity to draw that influence into our lives. So think about that. Who are they? And then lastly, how can you increase your contact with those 5 people? So again, Oprah may not show up for lunch, but we can certainly follow her content. We can watch her shows. We can read her quotes. We can read her books. We can get subscribed to her magazine. We can do all these things to bring Oprah into our circle of 5, simply by the amount of influence we allow her to have on who we are.
Yeah,
and then, so that's one way.
We love doing that.
Oh my gosh,
all the time. Of course, the second way, or the first way really, is direct contact. So if you know the people that you want in your circle of 5, start spending more time with them. Find the events that they're at. Go out there and find those people and bring them into your circle. Engage with them. Build relationships with them, and bring them into your circle. And then lastly, and I'm not very good at this because I don't sit still long enough to do it, but for those of you who can, and for those of you who are really good at meditation, visualization. visualizing the person and that person that is going to be the biggest influence on you, bringing those visual cues into your life, really being able to see yourself being influenced by those people, bringing in their messages and embracing those messages is the third way you can do it without actually having to spend time with them.
Yeah, well, then you start to attract, right?
And then you start to bring the right people into your life. Absolutely.
You reminded me going through that. And one time I was challenged to reach out to 5 people, although we weren't talking about this, but that are somewhere above where I was in business, and ask them a list of questions. Like, just see if you could get 15 minutes of time with them to ask them certain questions. And I was so nervous to do it because I thought, oh, do they have time for me?
Right.
So, and one, it actually stretched me so much. I grew a lot in doing it, and I learned a lot. I learned that, they're just regular people that have had a whole lot more experience than I have. And some of them said the same things. Yes. And nobody said no to me.
Yeah.
No, I didn't ask Oprah, but I'm saying it was, people that I didn't normally know.
Yeah, I find that they want people who are genuine like that and are at a spot that you want to be. I find that they do. It's not long ago that they were in our position, and I find that they're always very open to helping.
Yeah, and most
that
people
way
are quite humble, and everybody has their own underlying misconceptions and doubts and things like that. So it's probably very flattering even Oprah probably sits there and goes, I can't believe all these people love me.
I know. I know. And they still do all these years later. And here we are still talking about her from her heyday.
Absolutely.
I would say the beginning of her heyday. And it still is.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys, we are at the end of our time. I'm just going to check and see if I'm missing. It doesn't look like I'm seeing any more messages there, so I'm sorry if we have missed another comment or question you've gotten. We'll go look. Somehow that's what happens on these lives. It stops and we don't see what's happening, so we're definitely not ignoring you. We'll come back to your questions. If you're seeing this somewhere else and you're not in our Facebook group where we go live, that you can continue the conversation, ask to join the Circle Life and Business Show. We have a business page as well, so you can find us there. We post about that. But share this out if it's helpful that you think to anybody in your circle. And you can follow us on YouTube too. We post it there. Post all of our previous shows as well.
It's true.
Ladies, thanks
thanks everybody for joining. Hope you learned a little bit about your 5 people who are going to influence you most and can improve your circle as you go forward.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Cheers.